Turn the microphone out. It'd be nice, mate. We're live. Sorry about the delay. Typical live TV, as they say, on that side of it. As you can see, we are joined by Mark Robinson. Mark, Robbo, welcome.
Evening. You can blame me, Stuart. It's all right. You can blame me.
I wouldn't do that, Robbo. I wouldn't do that. Most people think it's me, see, so I'll take that. No, we know that we're from old technology on that side of it.
Yeah, not my thing.
And of course, we're joined by Anne-Marie Godfrey.
Thanks very much for having me. Nice to see you both.
No problem at all. No problem at all. And it's mad, isn't it? It's still the summer. Obviously, England are in the semi-finals and pre-season has started already. It just doesn't feel like it's been much of a break, which I'd imagine for you, Robbo, is probably very true in terms of a break on that side. So, yeah, any questions, please feel free to ask them through. We will get through the questions on that side of it. But yeah, Robbo, thanks for joining us. And it's all go already, isn't it? In terms of the players are back about a week and a bit ago, and it's already. Oh, that's my cat. And pre-season's already kicked on now already.
Yeah, no, we come back last Thursday, so not the Thursday before actually. So yeah, we've done a full week and 2 days, and it's absolutely flown. But once you're back and back out coaching and on the grass with them, then it's great anyway. But it seems to have gone quicker than ever, to be honest.
Definitely. Have you been watching I guess you've been watching the Euros in England?
Not as much as I want, to be honest, because we've been quite late some nights and missing the early. But once you're back and back out coaching and on
sorry, I've got to repeat on that. I apologise. That's better. Yeah.
So I've not as much as I've wanted, but I saw the England game obviously last night, and I've seen the England games, but I haven't seen lots of the other stuff. The lads have been watching it, but no, not seen those because we've been organising things, especially for this week coming up.
Second semi-final. He's got not a bad record. I was interested actually because tactically he's. I don't know if he had a chance, but he's done an interview with the High Performance podcast, which is Jake Humphreys, which talks about elite sport and stuff like that. And he said he learned quite a bit from Russia, where 7 games, and he sort of had 2 games. He's kept the team fresh, hasn't he? In terms of Sancho played yesterday, he's keeping them guessing, isn't he, Robbo?
He is, yeah. And we were talking about that yesterday. That he's, apart from the 2 in midfield, he's been rotating quite a lot. But to be honest, I think the depth we've got is as strong as it's ever been, and I think the players all offer similar things, so if he's got a certain style that he's got a certain style he wants to play. You look at any of those players, they come in, they all offer something quite similar, really. Some got a little bit more flair than others, but I think we've got such a great depth now that he's probably able to do that, and it seems to have worked.
A young team as well.
Yeah,
very, very young team on that side of it. Yeah. So I wanted to get. I had to ask. First question would have been talking about the test event, the Liverpool Under-23 game. Obviously, interesting way to finish the season. I just wanted to know how you felt, because it was I don't know about you, but it was one of those. It was a test event. I was looking forward to it. Didn't really know what to expect, but it turned out to be a lot more emotional than what I was anticipating. And I have to say, when you and the management team come out on the centre circle, that was quite a. I think it was, in terms of a round of applause for both. You know what I mean, for yourself, and I know obviously you want to thank the fans, but that was challenging for you, wasn't it?
It was, It was too emotional, if I'm honest. It was ridiculous. The staff were just laughing at me because I don't know why it was so emotional. Well, obviously I know why it was, but it got to me more than I thought it would. I kind of got upset before the game, and then Chris Phillips. I went and sat in the dugout to watch the warm up. And Chris Phillips announced, I think he started off with, "I can't believe I'm going to be the first person to say this, but welcome to Plough Lane." Yeah. And I just went then. I went and I had to go back in the tunnel. And then I come out again and the staff would just laugh. They went, "You can't cry all night. It's embarrassing." You just...
You weren't alone, though. You weren't alone, Robert.
Yeah, no, it was weird. And I just think you think of it so much, don't you? It's not just there and then. You think of the journey you've been on. I was thinking about my dad, and all sorts of stuff are going through your head. And No, it was so emotional. I was saying the first 15 minutes of the game, I couldn't tell you anything that went on. It was weird, but I'm glad we've had, I'm glad we got more coming out, because I don't know what it'd be like first league game if the first league game was in front of fans. So I'm glad we're getting them out of the way now.
Yeah, the test events are for us all, isn't it? Before the serious stuff starts. Yeah. Anne-Marie, you went to a test event, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I was probably just as emotional as Robbo. But I thought, I was about to say, credit to the club. I thought it was so well organised. I mean, obviously the world's opening up a little bit more now, and some things are more seamless than others. But I thought it was, exceptionally well organised night, as well as, all the added emotion to it. Really, really special. And it just, great for everyone to come in and see what the ground's all about, and have a look at, just get a vibe what your normal match day is gonna be like. And obviously you've had a few games there. Now, does it? I guess you still get that it must have been a totally different experience having fans there.
Completely different. Rob and I were saying that it was so different. Because you still wanted to win the game, and there was a couple of times we were trying to get messages across to the players, and it was so much more difficult. Which is something we've been talking to the players about, actually, preparing for the season, in terms of then taking a lot more ownership. Again, I'm big on player ownership, but kind of getting that across, because that was an eye-opener for us, even in front of 2,000, because, I mean, the noise was crazy, wasn't it? I mean, it felt like 6,000. So, so it was, we've been talking about that a lot, how different it's going to be. But yeah, it's so exciting. I can't wait to know.
Cool. So obviously going back to, I know you're a bit of a workaholic. Did you get any downtime? Did you get away at all? Did you get a chance to relax?
If I'm honest, not as much as I'd want. There's no point in me lying. I should have tried to get more. I got a week. I went away with Claire for a week with the dog to Cornwall, and that was nice. And I've tried to sort of leave my phone off, sort of from a certain time to a certain time. So it's probably been busier than it should have been. But I think it's such an important year, Stu, for us as a club, in terms of moving forward. And there's so much that not just I've done, that we've done, that Rob's done, and the staff have helped me, that are going to put us in good stead for the future, that it just needed to be done. So, it wasn't completely ideal, but in terms of what we've done with the training ground, in terms of the amount of presentations I've done with clubs, even if we don't see the fruits of it now, they're going to be things that we'll see the fruits of it later. So it needed to be done. And I think, if it works, which it will, then it should make next season's off season, easier and better. So there was a lot of work, but I'm sure we'll reap the rewards of it, and it was well worth doing.
Definitely. That's what I was sort of going to say to you. Did you get a chance to turn your phone off? Because that's the problem, isn't it? In terms of, does it work differently now? See, because you've got the football committee, so you're not sort of you're involved in the transfers. But did that give you? Yeah. I'm guessing agents don't call you directly. Would that be right in assuming that?
Well, they did, and that's the trouble, because it's the first year. It was hard trying to get that message across, because agents want to talk to managers and etc.
Yeah.
So I'm passing it on to Will Daniels and Joe, but then they're still coming back to you. So it's just trying to get that message across, and I think it'll be like that for the first year. So it's having those processes in place where they realise that they don't come to me straight away. Then we look at the players, then I talk to them, and then I meet the players, etc. And there's a process behind it. So that's to be expected. But I've spoken to more agents than I've ever spoken to in my life, because I didn't really get involved with the academy. But again, it doesn't hurt. I've built some really good relationships, which again will be good for the future. So it's all good.
So at the end of last season, we offered obviously contracts to players out of contract, Joe Pigott and Terrell Thomas. Obviously, we know Terrell's decided to move on to Pastures New, and Joe Pigott obviously has decided not to stay with us. Did we, with that, in terms of your preparation for the season, did we give them a sort of like a deadline as to when we needed to know? Because obviously they're key players. They were key players, weren't there? Was there something we sort of put into that?
Yeah, we did. With Joe, I asked him to let us know quite early, and Joe was great. He did. So we had chats, and we put a new offer in and said, can you let us know as early as possible? And Joe was brilliant, and he did. Terrell went on a little bit longer, because I think Terrell had decided as I said in the when Chris
Yeah.
interviewed me, you know, he decided he was going to go. And then when he saw the changes, even though he didn't play, he started coming in, he saw the changes and he changed his mind, and he felt like, oh no, you know, possibly I want to stay. But then obviously started getting offers, and, you know,
Yeah.
we are where we are with resources, etc. So I think it was to in a France. So Terrell really wasn't until 10 days ago I sat down and chatted. I think he was, you know, he couldn't really make up his mind, but then we had a good chat, and I think, you know, he's had an offer that he feels is too good. And you know, but it's all been great. The lads have been fantastic. It's been quite emotional. Been the same with Dobbo. You know, it was quite emotional.
Yeah.
And he couldn't really get his words out, and I had to say it for him. You know, because we had such a good time. I know we stayed up, but we had a great time doing it. You know, and built some bonds. So, but, you know, as I said, it's we are where we are resource wise, and sometimes you win some and you lose some. But it was still good to see how the environment we'd created together that had such an impact on them, you know, and it was a real difficult decision. I mean, Joe's still training with us now. He won't mind me saying. People think that's a bit strange, but, you know, he asked if he could because he wants to stay sharp for his next bit of his pathway, and I had absolutely no problem with it. I said, as long as you come and train like a new signing, which he is, he's still coming training, and, you know, as far as I'm concerned, he's part of the family until he goes, and you want to help him on his next journey. So he's still coming in as we speak.
It's pretty interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, I was really impressed of how you allowed Callum Riley to play in the event, and I remember saying to a couple of mates, I wouldn't have been surprised if they were playing, but I felt sometimes that shows the values of the club, doesn't it, in terms of that, and I thought that was a really good gesture.
It's something we want to do, Stu. You know, we're trying to build this thing. You know, you come and play for Wimbledon, and your job is to leave the shirt in a better place, and as long as they're in line with our values, and they show the kind of character that we expect and what you expect as fans, you know, people move on, and I think we should celebrate it, not just put a paragraph on the website and they go. You know, it's you know, Rob's come up with a great idea, you know, in terms of that we should give them something with the number of games they've played, etc., and celebrate. You know, we say what a fantastic club we are, and we've got this great story. So I think we should celebrate every player. As I said, as long as they show the character and they work in line with our values, we should celebrate the fact that they've played a part in our history. And I think you reap the rewards from that as well, because players go away and they talk to other people, and, you know, you reap the rewards over time.
Definitely. It's one of the things, in terms of the interviews recently you've done, there's some cracking interviews, and one of the things that I've noticed, and it's been quite refreshing, is you've been honest. You've been honest about the conversations you had with Terrell and Joe, and I think, you know, sometimes other clubs and that, they will sort of players gone, and like you just said, a paragraph, Purdy's cats annoy me again. But you're right, you get a paragraph, they've left, and you think, well, what happened? Do you know what I mean? Something, did we try? Did we not try? Is that important for you to get that across to the fans, but also for like people like Terrell Thomas and that they were interested, but they didn't just say thank you, no thanks?
I think it's massive, because it used to really frustrate me with the academy when, you know, players used to go, and, you know, people would get a perception of players based on what the information that was given out. And obviously the academy players were really dear to me, and they were fantastic lads, and you'd read things and you'd hear fans saying things, and I couldn't say anything, you know, because it is what it is. And it, you know, Brendan Kiernan, perfect example, you know, got portrayed as, you know, Brendan is possibly one of the greatest human beings I've ever met, you know, and he's a family friend. He comes around Christmas, you know, and he gets portrayed as this, thought he was big time, and you couldn't be further from the truth. He's a wonderful lad, and doing great work in the community now. And he actually come back and did a session with us before, because he's gone and signed for Walsall now. So he asked.
Okay.
So I just think it's, you know, I just want to be as open as you can possibly be. And if you've gone for a player, then why not say you've gone for a player? And if they decide, you know, that it's not quite for them for whatever reason, well, then the fans at least know we've tried, and they know that the player has thought deeply about it, and that, you know, it wasn't an easy decision for him. So I always want to be as open as you can possibly be.
In terms of what you're saying about, you know, getting new players in, you were saying earlier about the presentations. I just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that and what that involved. Is that something that you did before with the academy, when you were looking at bringing players in? It was just an interesting approach, and I wasn't sure if this was something that had been happening in football we just didn't know about, like much like you're saying with that honesty. Or is it like an individual style for you?
I thought, to be honest, I imagined that it would happen in terms of loans, that you did presentations, and I think some clubs do, but I think the lengths we've gone to, clubs have been quite impressed. Well, they've been impressed in terms of the presentations we've done and how open we've been. So the feedback I've had for the clubs has been fantastic, and we showed them targets that we had for potential loans, and then they come back to us with other potential targets. It's, but then it gets a bit tricky, Anne-Marie, because agents get involved, they have other offers, and you see where it goes. But in terms of the clubs, they've been fantastic, and I've presented to sort of 8-9 clubs now. As I said, and if we don't get anything, because we had our main targets, because we're not looking for loads of players, so we had our main targets, and if it doesn't quite come to fruition this season, I know them relationships are there now. We've had a couple, to be fair, that we did get offered players, but they weren't our first choice, and I've kind of hung on for our first choice, and I've lost those. So, that's part of the learning process for me. I might regret that and think, oh, maybe I should have taken that one. But obviously it's my first full stint doing it, and you want to try and hang out for your first choices like we did with Luke. So, yes, so it's gone really, really well. And the feedback I've got is that we've kind of gone above and beyond most, but they really appreciate it. They've loved it. And the next part of the process is then you meet the players. And obviously, we've also presented to the players in terms of what we can do for them. But part of it is I want to find out what they're going to do for us and meet them. So for Luke, for example, the meeting was nearly 3 hours by the time he left us with his agent. So, partly because he's just such an infectious character, and you'll all get to see that as you get to know him. And so it's been good. And that part of it, Anne-Marie, is just business. It's like any other business, and I think where I've worked outside of football, it's just normal. It would be just normal to me. If you want to go and take someone's best product, then you need to present to them what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it. And it's just normal business practice for me. So,
Can you give us any insight at all into sort of, I'm guessing, maybe I'm biased, but did you have to, I guess you didn't have to sell it much to Luke, like it must have been a really big opportunity for him. What kind of things were you saying in terms of going forward for the season, like what your vision was?
Yeah, I mean, the stadium helps. There's no doubt about that. Taken to the stadium now. Yeah, so we had it set up for him and his agent. So partly the presentations were in kind of different parts. So the first part was talk to him about the club and making sure he understand exactly what was about a club, because there's certain things that I'm going to be asking the players to do, and I don't want to hide that. So in terms of getting involved with the Dons local action group and doing deliveries, that's what we're going to do. And I'm not going to sign a player who isn't comfortable with that, because if he's not comfortable with that, it's not the sort of person we want in the building. So I think it was so key that we were honest in terms of, this is what we are as a football club, this is what we do, this is what we're about. And in Luke's case, he just sat there with big wide open eyes with a big smile on his face, loving it. So you straight away you get a feel for the player. If they're sitting there thinking, well, why do I want to deliver food parcels on a Thursday afternoon? Then well, you have to just bite the bullet and think, well, you're not for us. So that was the first part. The second part was in terms of the vision, how we're going to play, how we're going to do it, etc., etc. And then the third part is how we're going to improve them, and where I see him as a player, and how we're going to take him to the next level, really. And then it would finish off with them asking questions. So each bit was broken down like that.
And I guess sorry, Stu. I was just going to say about James Simmons joining the team, and sort of how that influenced with Luke signing, in terms of, did that have any sort of influence on that happening, or was it kind of like a buy one get one free in terms of you going in for them as a kind of?
Well, when I went to Chelsea, it was regarding loans. I didn't realise there was a chance to get Luke on a permanent. So okay. Luke was one of our targets as a loan, because he still had another year. So we went in with various potential loan targets, and then they flagged up that, you know, potentially Luke could come on a permanent because, you know, so that's how that conversation started. And I fed that back to Joe and Will Daniels and the recruitment team. But then I also presented on about having secondments for staff, because obviously it went so well with Justin Cochran. And again, with our resources, we have to think outside the box. How are we going to get quality people in? So that was something I knew Neil, but I've known Neil for a long time at Chelsea. I know he's really open to that kind of thing. So he loved it. He was great. And he said, no, I'll get back to you. I think I've got the perfect person for that if you want to meet him. So I met James, and he's obviously it's football, so we've got to call him Simo now. You've got to have a nickname, haven't you? So Simo's he's brilliant. I mean, he's going to fit perfectly in with the team. And yeah, I think he knows Luke. So I think he just sent Luke a message. I don't think that might change Luke's mind on whether he was going to come or not, but it was just another added thing. And it just, again, enhances what we say, that we've got this creative environment where everyone comes to get better and learn. And it just shows that, you know, I think Luke looked at that and thought, you know, oh, well, this is different. And he obviously knows Simo's a quality coach as well. So.
In terms of with the, you know, loaning of coaches, is that something that, you know, longer term that you would maybe consider doing for clubs maybe like in non-league, sort of the other way as we've worked with Chelsea in that respect? Is that something longer term that you would consider in terms of building up other clubs?
We would send coaches to them or
yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. So like, I don't know, for instance, like with Merstham, like the link we've had over the years, is that something
yeah, I mean,
more like community based?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't think of. You know, you might send a young coach to get, you know, we might have an under 15 coach who might warrant some first team experience at that level. Definitely. No, I mean, anything like that. I mean, I'll be honest, Anne-Marie, I wouldn't write off me taking a coach in from a different sport if I thought that he would add something. You know, if you know, someone said to me from something like rugby where I think we could add something different mentality wise, then why not? I've always, you know, visited loads of different sports anyway as part of my development, and I think you pick up so many different things, especially individual sports, because, you know, those guys are on a different level when it comes to their elite behaviours and how they take ownership because they have to. So you know, I wouldn't write anything off. It just has to add value. You don't do things for the sake of it, but if it's going to add value, then, you know, why not?
Superb. We've got loads of people listening tonight. So go through a question. James, who's BBC Radio co-commentator, I think he's up at Harrogate, is I believe a gap left by the departing Joe Pigott is very big regarding recruitment. Is very big regards to recruitment and strengthening of our squad. Have you got any targets in mind? Obviously, we don't want names, but, you know, are you sort of looking around? Do you think is Pigott one that you want to replace? Or, you know, you said before, you want to try and get goals across the team? Yeah,
no, we've got a target of a similar style of player to Joe. That's our first choice target. So hopefully we'll land that. But I think the key thing is, I did an interview for the South London Press. I think it was maybe misinterpreted a bit when I said about, you know, resources, because I don't want to use that word budget, but we are where we are. If we're signing a forward, we're either taking him from lower league and he scored goals, so it's can he replicate that in League One, or we're taking a loanee and obviously he'll be younger, and it's can he do it in League One? You know, we're not. What I was trying to get across is we're not going to sign someone who scored 21 goals in League One. He's not coming to us. So I think it's really key that we work to have goals all over the pitch. You know, hence why we've signed Luke. And, you know, you look at Rudy and Chiz and Ayew, I think it's really key. And then obviously, of course, I want to get a forward that's going to replicate what Joe can do. But then that's almost a bonus, if that makes sense, you know, because we've got Ollie as well. And if we do land the forward and he weighs in with 18, 19 goals, then it's almost a bonus. But I think the style of play that we're going to play, it's really key that we've got goals coming from everywhere. And I think it's healthy, Stu, anyway, if I'm honest with you, because, you know, you look at Joe, and let's be honest, we're so fortunate he stayed injury free for the last 2-3 seasons, because we would have gone down. So I think it's so much healthier to have goals from everywhere anyway. And as I said, if you've got a centre forward who bangs in 20, plus, then that's a bonus.
What's it like at the moment in terms of looking for lower leagues? Because we had a trial, didn't we, on for London for Live 123. I think it was at Lewes, wasn't it? Obviously, with the below National League, they didn't play. Has that been difficult in terms of looking at players? Has it caused any unrest? Because I know we've got the thing about Nesta Guinness Walker and stuff we got from Met Police. Has that caused a bit of an issue down looking at players?
Yeah, it's been harder because we haven't been able to get eyes on them really. So again, that'd be, now we've got the recruitment team, and that's another exciting thing moving forward, and also getting our lads out as well, because they almost lost the year of playing football. So our second year pros, who were our first year pros last year, are almost, they're not a year behind the great lads, and they work hard, but that, I think, there's a few there that may closer to the first team squad than they actually are right now. So that's going to be exciting that they're back out and playing football, and Mike's taken over the loans, Michael Hamilton, the academy manager, and he's done really well with the loans. So I'm really excited about how those lads are going to progress as well. Because I said, when I said we'll probably only carry a squad of 20, 21, I think people thought, oh, that's small. But you've got to remember now, we've got these 10, 11 lads who are all out playing non-league football. And I've got to be honest, there's, some of them I'd happily put in the squad now if I had to, but I don't want to, because they need to be playing football. They need to be playing football week in, week out.
Superb question here from just a tag of Ballum. The signing quality interview with Darius Childs was superb. That's a great signing. I've said to you before, do you know what I mean? Like, Darius typifies all the character and the values. I'm guessing you're pleased to have him on board. Yeah,
I mean, Darius, I've been close to for years, so when after training, when he was in the first team, we used to just sit and talk about football and various things. So we've always been so aligned in terms of creating cultures and winning cultures, and how you get the best out of people, especially young people now, because life's changed, etc. So we've always chatted, and then when I got the job, I was thinking last year, I was sort of thinking ahead and thinking, well, how can I keep creating this ownership that I believe in terms of players, and taking it on to the next level. And I think it's really key that you have more than just one voice sometimes, and thinking, well, okay, I know it'll come from me and my staff, but for some of the players, it's going to be quite new. Where we're looking to take it, there might be things where, when they're left alone in the dressing room, they go back, and you only need one person to be a little bit negative and go, oh, I don't know why you're doing that, And whereas I know with Darius, he was so aligned that he will be so positive in the dressing room and make them understand. And he's a big believer in player ownership. It was a big part in all his promotions and etc. So it was obvious for me, Stu, and I was so glad when he come aboard. And plus you got the added extra, if we did have some injuries, he's more than capable of playing as well. So it's exciting. It's just that positive energy around the place that I want. It's so key.
Yeah, because obviously with Darius, as well, what's the word? The Accrington away game, the second leg, that team was a very strong-minded team, and it was widely rumoured that team were able to do a team talk themselves, which is not a surprise because of the characters are in that. Did you feel it was something that was missing then? Because obviously we've got a young team, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Was it not a quiet dressing room, but do you want, obviously, and Darius might be what we call a father figure because he's not that, but he's an older, experienced pro. Is that something you felt you needed in with the youngsters?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer. You just need to let people be themselves in the dressing room. So I don't worry about quiet dressing rooms, noisy dressing rooms. It's all about what they produce when they go out on the pitch, because everyone's different, and everyone prepares different. And I've just been reading some stuff on extroverts and introverts and how we misinterpret introverts. And, some people need to be like that. So it's not about that. It's just more, we're going to be young. Obviously, we're going to be young, but that's exciting. But with that, there will become things, there's going to be little bumps in the road where you need that constant positive reinforcement. So, and it's just more about that, really, Stu. it's hard to put into words. I'll give you. I remember when we played Tottenham in the FA Cup, and I remember him sitting there with some of the players, and they were talking about the Tottenham players, and he just stood up. And he went, "Well, we might as well not turn up then, if you're going to keep talking about the Tottenham players." And I was just sitting there laughing, And he had no respect, but his attitude is just like, "Why are we talking about them? Why aren't we just talking about what we're going to go and do?" And you just need that, because if the young lads ever have a little bit of drop in confidence, etc., he will just be there giving them that self-belief, because we've got good players, and I've got no problem with us being young, and it'll just be exciting. He's just that splattering experience. He knows what a promotion looks like, and that's what I want us talking about. I want us to be talking about promotions, not relegations, and fighting relegations. So it's just that. So, and plus, I think he'd take the pressure off the more experienced lads we've got in terms of Ben and Wills and Woody. So Woody's brilliant and Ben are brilliant, and it'd be good for them as well to have him around.
And it was interesting in his interview, because I, for 1 minute, don't think he's going to be wanting to play. I know if you look at his game time over the last 3 years, to be fair, he's done well to even come back to continue playing football. But he's going to be, I wouldn't say he's going to be banging on your door, but he's going to be trying to impress in training, isn't he, to try and get in that team.
He's due in tomorrow. So I think once he gets involved, he's probably going to want to play more than he realises he's going to want to play, definitely. Because he wants to, I know once he starts getting involved in the sessions, he'll love them. So, which is good. It's a good thing, We've got no problem with that. No problem with that at all. And I think, as you said, what he's gone through as a person is so important as well, in terms of that robustness and resilience. He's gone through so much just to play, and how he manages himself, and how he's had to change his lifestyle. So all those things, there's more than just one thing. There's so much comes with him that is so important.
Yeah, the strength of character is amazing. I think Wimbledon fans, when they saw him, obviously, the first time at Wimbledon, could see that in terms of leader on the pitch. But he's been very open about, obviously, mental health and stuff like that. And I think as an individual, it's amazing what he's come back from. And me personally, I'm so pleased he's back at Plough Lane. It's in a way, it's nice in a way to see a player who obviously contributed quite a bit to get us into League One, to be able to hopefully come out and see a full house at home to Bolton, hopefully, on that side of it. In terms, obviously, Archie went up to Accrington, which obviously I saw that on that side. It got me looking, people that probably weren't aware, but we had a player that obviously we let go a couple of years ago, got up to Celtic. Really mad, obviously, Azazi Ergeride, who I remember seeing. Was he? Am I right thinking he was in the same team as Anthony Hartigan? I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah, no,
he wasn't
he? Same year as Ant, yeah.
Yeah, and from memory, I think he was a centre half the first year. I didn't see him in the second half. But Sheffield Wednesday, he went for trial at Sheffield Wednesday. Was that a case of just we got it wrong, or is it academy players they can improve as they go through?
No, we got it wrong. Not us, not the academy. We got it wrong, but we get the process wrong, and this is why I'm so keen to change the processes at the club, because and this isn't what I'm going to say now isn't a knock at any previous managers or anything like that. It's just the process of football. A manager's under pressure to get results now, because their job's on the line, and that can lead to decisions that aren't long term, they're short term. So with Asazi, he was technically a bit raw, but has got the most unbelievable will to be the best he can be that we've ever worked with. So, as an academy, we're saying you can't let this lad go. You simply can't let him go. And other people are saying, well, we don't quite see it, which is understandable. So you get this short-termism. So we fought for him to stay, but it didn't happen. Because when you get someone with that unbelievable character, that anything can happen. And as I said, that's not a knock, but that's just the problem. So that's why I'm so keen to have a proper process in place, because although I'm obviously going to have a keen eye on the academy still, because it's so important to the club and so important to me, I haven't got enough hours to know the academy players like I used to know the academy players. So I have to make Michael accountable now. So if Mike comes to me and says, Robbo, this lad's a little bit raw around the edges, but honestly, he warrants a pro. because his attitude is fantastic, I have to trust him. You know, I can't base it on the fact that I've watched him in a couple of sessions and he give the ball away a couple of times. I have to trust him and trust his ability. And you know, and I'm a believer in that, because he would have known the lad for say 5 years, and I'm basing it on 3 training sessions or a couple of games. It's not. So you have to trust your staff, and at the same time, I have to make Mike and the academy staff accountable. So you know, if they do that, and I trust them, and we sign them, and they end up not being anywhere near it, then that's part of life. And you go back to them and say, well, listen, if you're making these decisions and I'm making these decisions and it comes out of my budget, well, then you need to be getting them right. But that was just the issue with Sarsia. There wasn't enough trust in us and our expertise, in my opinion, on those players. And, you know, you can't have a player walk out of a League Two club and then walk into a Championship club. And it doesn't. And it wasn't the only one. You know, it happened on 3 occasions. And, you know, and I said that's not a knock at anyone, but that's just the lack of process, and it can't happen because we can't afford that to happen. So,
yeah,
you know, going on to the Archie thing, although that's disappointing, because I would have loved Arch to stay, and we just saw it. Arch and I saw it differently. As I said in my interview, Archie wanted to be in the squad. I wanted him to have another year of men's football, because, as I said, for me, it's so important young players are playing, and I couldn't guarantee he'd play in our first team. I think he would be a first team player, but not this season coming. Yeah. And then Arch got that opportunity from Accrington to be in the squad, and we sat down and had a chat, and he wanted to take it. But the difference is, Stu, we're getting paid for it now. We're getting paid for his development. So although it's not the outcome we would have loved, at least we're getting paid for him going, and there will be future money if he goes on. And I really hope he does, to smash it. So.
And that's the key. That's the key, isn't it? Because, you know, the academy puts so much work into it to be rewarded for the work. And it's always difficult to value what is the, you know, how can you value what you've done with that? With Azaz, do you think, obviously, we've now changed the contract, so we're now doing the 2-year plus 1 option.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Azazi is the example, but do you think that would now cover that a little bit better? Because you're right, you know, I think he left after a year, didn't he? From memory, I think he got a year contract, didn't he? Or got a year and didn't do it. Do you think that will now protect it a little? Is that something behind what you've introduced?
No, the contracts are just a bit of paper and gives them longer to develop. The thing that protects it is the relationships and the conversations between the staff, and not having one person who makes that whole decision, you know? So that's the thing that protects it. The contracts are a good thing because we're giving the boys extra time to develop. But the thing that protects it is me having the right conversations with Mike and trusting Mike and the academy staff, and me not having the autonomy just to go, no, he's not good enough. You know, that's what protects it, because I've, you know, I could be walking through the door on a Monday morning after losing 3-0 at home to someone, and then someone wants to talk to you about an academy lad, and although I like to think I work on an even keel, it's emotional. So that's why you have to have proper conversations about these lads. You know, there's been a lot of time invested in them. So there needs to be proper football conversations amongst the right people, not just one person making a decision, you know.
It's interesting what you were saying as well, because I've had many chats with friends about, if you look at the big clubs, like in terms of Premier League, Jose Mourinho would never, ever use youth players, because he's wise enough to realise that he ain't going to be here to see the benefit of that. That's a higher up. That's obviously a higher up. And I sort of understand that. If you look at the shelf life of, I think, even like a Championship manager, I don't think it's actually much more than 15 months.
Yeah.
Obviously, with what we're all saying that, have you got the support from Joe on that too? Because you're right, you know, we need to look long term, because it's short term is crazy. And you're right, if you get a player that's, say for our sake, Azazi, who isn't ready now but is ready in 2 or 3 years, you need to, you know, someone's going to see the benefit of that. Not maybe sell, you know, not the manager at that time. But have you had a conversation with Joe about having that long term view? Yeah,
and I think Joe, you know, he trusts me that if I play a young player, you know, it's because I believe he's good enough, and it's right to play him. You know, just because I've come from the academy and started the academy doesn't mean that I'm just going to flood the team with academy players. I stuck Ayoub in because I believed he could have an impact on football matches, and he was good enough, and for the same reason that
just a bit, Robbo.
Sorry.
It was only just about good enough. Yeah.
By the same account, I want Archie. You know, I wanted Archie to have another 6 months of men's football out on loan because that's what I feel he needs, and that's the same with some of the other young lads who I think are kind of on the cusp of, could do well, but I'm trying to make them understand I don't want you to come in and be okay. I want you to come in and smash it. So, please go and play 46 games of men's football. So, no, I think, Joe, trust me. But I think, to be honest, Stu, you look at it, I think there needs to be more trust on young players. You look at the England setup now, you just said it, how young they are. And you look at, I know Frank Lampard's not at Chelsea now, but the young players that went in there, and I think people get this so wrong when they go, so let's say Reece James, Mason Mount, those players, they go, oh yeah, well they would have got there anyway. If they would have been good enough anyway. As you know, life is about opportunity and timing. And if those lads hadn't got that opportunity right there and then under him, you can't then say, because football, it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. I've seen lads I know could have played for our first team, and and they get released, and then they go to non-league, and everyone goes, "Oh yeah, they found their level." No. I mean, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. You look at, I'll go back to Brendan Kiernan. When he played semi-pro football after he left for years and years, but now 27, he's got back into professional football again. Now I know Brendan could have flourished, and probably gone on and played higher. The lads have so much ability. So it doesn't work like that. So it's about opportunity. So if they're good enough, you've got to try and give them the opportunity, I believe.
And just quickly, Amateur will go in. You're right. Obviously, with Mason Mount and Reece James, if it wasn't for the transfer embargo that Chelsea had, they wouldn't have played them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Lampard would have played them if it's not for that. But what I'm saying, they got that. They got that opportunity. Yeah,
definitely.
And for some of the younger lads who've come through over the years under you, Robbo, how are they prepped for pre-season? Is it going to be very different from what they've experienced with you pre-season in the past, or what kind of things have you got lined up, or what have already started, I guess?
Yeah, no, I kind of, they knew what to expect. It's been good, Andrew. I thought Chris and I Chris is a sports scientist, so we had long chats in the off season about pre-season. I've said, where I want us to be fitness wise, and I've got to be honest, he's blown me away. I'm excited because we've done some sessions, and I thought there was one session we did yesterday, and I thought we'd come to an end, and I was like, okay, brilliant, boys, well done. And he went, no, we're not finished. They got to do this now. And even I was like, okay. So, we had a bit of a think, because, the academy lads have always done the Richmond Park run. And I talked to Chris about it in terms of mentality. I said, it's not about fitness. It's just about overcoming, that little bit of obscurity, etc., and that team bonding. And he was kind of, but I don't think it's relevant to what you want to go. So we had a bit of a thing. And then he come back and he spoke to Tim, and they presented to me what they wanted to do pre-season that would give me the outcomes that I wanted. But at the same time, their argument with doing the Richmond Park run was, for some players, because it's quite heavy on the joints, I would actually lose football time. So they kind of sold it to me that you don't want to lose your football time. So they played me a little bit, if I'm honest. They went, you don't want to lose your football time, your grass time. So we've come up with this. So what they've done, they've come up with a week where we go to Richmond Park. So we're starting tomorrow. So we're cycling instead of running. So, but we're getting there at 8:15, and they're doing one lap, but it's all done as time trial. So we're doing it like time trial, and they're split into teams, and it's a competition. So they're doing one lap tomorrow. Then we're coming back, breakfast. Then we're going out doing unit work. Then we're having lunch. Then we're going back out, and then we're doing 7B7, 8B8. So we're doing triple sessions, and we're doing that all week. So Tuesday they'll be doing 2 laps. But the good thing is, because it's on the bike, they're still getting that camaraderie. They're still getting that team spirit. It's still a bit of a blow, but they're not getting that wear and tear on the joints, which means we can still go out and do football. So, yeah, they've been brilliant. They've blown me away. So I'm very happy at the moment.
And I suppose if you're doing that over the week as well, is the time trials happening over the whole week then?
Yeah. So it's a
Yeah,
competition the whole week. So they're in their teams for the whole week. So it's a competition. So basically, the time will go off of. So they're in teams of 5. So the time will go off of their last man. So it's that whole thing of, that team spirit thing of, if you got one lagging behind, how are they going to cope with that? Are they going to drop in and motivate him, or are they just going to leave him behind? No, all that kind of stuff.
How do you pick the teams?
I've left them to do it. They
Okay.
said, oh, we want to pick them, but no, I've trusted them. So at first we said, should we do it in units? Sent defenders but no, they've mixed it up. So I've just trusted them.
I just want to quickly
see who wins on that.
just to say, obviously, you kindly sent over. I love the rules. Must ride in single file. Respect other park users. No skidding on bikes. No headphones.
Yeah.
So there was one team that, and if you're okay, to name one of the groups, because this team, we were just talking about Darius, and I looked at this group and I was thinking, I want to be a fly on the wall in this group. Let me just quickly find it. So it's group forward: Darius, Paul Ossie, Matt Cox, Jack Rodoni, Ayub. That's how. Darius is gonna Days first week, because Darius will want to win that.
Yeah. No, he will. Mind you, there's a few in that group who want to win it, to be fair. So they could be No,
is that what you want though? That sort of team bonding, but also driving, working together.
Yeah,
that's the sort of basis of it, isn't it?
So it's got a bit of everything. You'll get the team bonding as the week goes on. As you said, you get the driving, you get, people who get called out, etc., which you need. And also you've got long days. I want them to wake up on Wednesday and, I want the alarm to go off at 5:45 and them to think, they need that, because with adversity comes character and so they need that. But at the same time, I know they'll enjoy it. And then you get that satisfaction at the end of the day, 4:30, when you're going home and you feel good. But to be fair to them, that touch wood, they've been in such a good place, and it's getting to that point, Stu, where they actually love hard work, where it doesn't feel like a chore, that you feel in such good condition that you actually start to love it and you enjoy it and you want more.
Fantastic. And then obviously we've got pre-season friendlies will be starting before we know it. Looking forward to those. Are we going to take sort of a different approach to each match, I guess, or play around with the squad?
It was difficult really, because with the test events, the fixtures didn't kind of work out exactly how we would have wanted. It was because 1 minute the 17th was going to be a test event, and then it wasn't going to be a test event. So we kind of had Brentford penciled in, and Joe said, are you happy with that, playing Brentford? Because obviously, Premier League side. I said, it doesn't really matter to me. If you need that for a test event, you need it. So we agreed that. And then it wasn't a test event. So everyone's looking, going, oh, why are you playing a Premier League team as your first? And then you go, so it is what it is, Anne-Marie. I think people read too much into it. So it's great, that it's Brentford. And then the test event date got moved. And so we'd agreed another team, but then they couldn't do it. So it all got a little bit confused, but I'm happy where it is in terms of the games. The key thing for me was I didn't, normally the first pre-season game would have been this Saturday. And I wanted to avoid that. I wanted to have 3 weeks before the game, because I wanted to do more in terms of fitness. I wanted to get more tactical work into them before that first game, because once the first game kicks in, then you got recovery days, etc., and you start losing days. So I'm really happy that we got all this week and all next week before the first game, and that's why I've doubled up on a couple of games as well. So on the Tuesday we've got 2 teams, and I know that's a bit of a pain in the backside for the fans, but it just means we're getting the same amount of game time but in a shorter space, so it just gives us more time. And as well, with the pre-season, I really thought it was important to play some semi-pro sides and back them because of COVID. So I really wanted us, to back those clubs and try and get some money into them. So for the fans that are listening, I realise I know we keep asking, but it'd be great to get great turnouts for those fans, because that's where we've come from, and I thought it was important to try and put some money back into those clubs if possible.
Yeah, it's a great gesture. To be fair, it's a nice one. It's Woking, love Woking, Hampton, Richmond, on that side of it. obviously, thanks for your time, Bobby. Just a couple of questions, just a couple of queries. Oddie Palmer, where are we with Oddie at the moment? Obviously, I know on his Instagram, he's, I think he was doing some specialist work, wasn't he? Where is he at the moment in terms of fitness wise?
Yeah, no, he's all good, Ollie. He's training. He's being modified a little bit, but not too much at all. Tim's really pleased with his hip. Ollie's really pleased. He's in much better condition than last season. I mean, respectfully, in terms of where he was,
Yeah.
He's looking trim, and no, he's in good shape. We just need to, keep an eye on it, but not in terms of he might just have to dip out of the odd session here and there, etc. But no, he's good. He's good.
And in terms of pre-season, a lot of players out of contract. They reckon it's obviously one of the biggest sort of amount of players out of contract. Are you expecting trialists, etc., stuff like that? So I know we had one on the 23, but I imagine there's going to be quite a lot of players fighting for contracts, aren't there, this summer?
Yeah, I mean, we've taken a couple in, but not loads really, because I'm happy with the squad. We've got more signings to come, which I'll be happy with. Obviously, I'm really happy with. So, you might look at a trialist from time to time, but to be honest, Stuart, it probably not loads, unless it was a young one. Like what again, we want to think outside the box. You might take a young one in, and you might put him straight back out on loan. You might think he's got something, and then you put him out on loan. It's not costing the club anything then, and you think, well, okay, in a year, 18 months' time, he could be another one. As well as our own academy lads that could do something for us. So so we're always open to it, but yeah.
And finally, fixtures are out. Tough August, isn't it? When you look at it, Doncaster away, Brighton, Bolton, Sunderland, Ipswich, Gillingham. I know it's a tough division, but crikey, kick in straight away, don't we?
It is, but how exciting if we have a great start, eh?
Definitely. Cool. Well, Robbo, thank you very much for joining us. It's really appreciate. And I agree totally in terms of the Wokins and Hams and Richmond. It'd be great to get to these games. It'd be great to see some football on that side of it. So thank you very much for joining us and taking the time. Anne-Marie, any questions before we go?
Just one. Is it coming home, Robbo?
Oh, I'm actually going Wednesday. I'm so excited.
Oh, wow.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
I can't believe. I don't want to put the mockers on it. I'm not superstitious normally, but I think we've got a great chance, haven't we? We've got to have a great chance. I mean, you get to the final, it's a one-off game, and it's got to be a great chance. As I said, I think the depth of the squad could help us. I think could really help us, because you think you get to the final, even if you're 1-0 down, we've got so many options you can bring on, and we should be quite fresh. I mean, we had the luxury of making a lot of substitutions the other night. Bringing 5 on with 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go. So hopefully we should be quite fresh as well. So let's say yeah.
Have an amazing night. Have an amazing time on
Yeah,
Wednesday.
60,000 at Wembley. That should be brilliant, shouldn't it? Do you know what I was thinking last night? We bought 5 subs on, and Foden and Grealish were still on the bench.
I know.
Absolutely ridiculous. Just actually, I'm not too sure whether this is something anything. 5 subs, is that still happening? Any news on that at all?
No, I'm trying to find out, because you probably remember last year we changed it. We call them finishers now. So, and it was something that, I'm doing a presentation to the lads on Wednesday, and it was one aspect that we feel that we didn't. People were quite polite actually about the subs. They felt the subs worked well, but there were times when, the finishers worked well. There were times when we felt actually we didn't get that fresh impetus that we wanted. So we want to get that mentality into them that, you're coming on to finish the game, raise the relentlessness, raise the impetus, and we didn't think that quite happened sometimes. So I'm trying to find out, because we want to present to the boys on that, because we think that's something that we can do better and utilise better, in terms of the way, the intensity we want to play it.
Definitely. And also, just when you remind me, Anne-Marie, you said about is it coming home, Luke McCormack, who done his interview, and the last question was, and he said that, and I was like, that's a typical fan, like you said. Do you know what I mean? He's a football fan, isn't he? And I'm looking forward. I think it's a great signing. and looking forward to it. Cool. William Robbo, enjoy Wednesday. I'm jealous. I won't lie. I think one of my mates, Matt's going as well.
Really?
I don't think he thought we were going to be seeing England, but
Yeah.
It's two home games. Advantage wise, we couldn't have any better advantage, could we?
No.
So cool. Well, enjoy yourself, and like I say, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you. Thanks,
Good
Thank
everybody.
you, Robin. Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.